Hello. Before I get started, I would like to apologize for the format and quality of my production of these slides. I am not a professional podcaster by any sense. This is my first time putting anything on YouTube. If anyone has any suggestions on how to make this a better series of talks and presentations, please let me know. As you will see, compared to a lot of other presenters, there's a lot of text, not a lot of song and dance, and if you have any suggestions on how I can do better, I'd appreciate that. I'm here to talk about a initiative I call Pro-Life Second Order, which is a way to reduce abortion to zero. However, in order to show these new ideas, it's important that I first provide a critical overview of what the current pro-life movement is doing. And that's this talk. Just to let you know up front, I've been working on this issue for years. Like I says here, I developed a version of this in 2015 and made some predictions about what would happen. A lot of that has come to pass. More recently, I have updated the slides to reflect more recent event, and I've also broken it into a series of slides, talks, rather than just doing it all at once. I should mention I'm a Roman Catholic to my core. Many of my assumptions and my worldview may be unfamiliar to others, but the fact that I do rely here on statistics and science, I think will make it of use to a lot of people. Trigger warning, conclusions of this presentation have already made some people mad, especially some of my friends who are pretty strong pro-lifers, who have been dedicated to the typical pro-life movement up to this point. And this first set of presentations is really not particularly good news for them. I want to be clear that I'm pro-life 100%, but I disagree with how the pro-life movement has worked since 1973. And a lot of the partisan nature of it, the politicization of it, it's become very problematic. I do have a vision for an alternative movement. I call it second order pro-life. And I'll present that later in this series. But first, I think it's important to say what needs to change. Why second order? There's a double meaning. One, among Catholic religious orders, like they have third order Franciscan, so it's kind of a double entendre there. There's a second meaning, which is sort of like in math, a second order differential equation is one that has second derivatives. I won't get into the details here. On the right-hand side here, you see second order or second degree polynomial and a first degree polynomial. If you look at the thing that says second order, it's y to the x squared, or y equals x squared, or y equals x times x. That is a second order polynomial. The first order polynomial is y equals x. That's a first order polynomial. Here's an overview of the talks that I will be providing. Part one, I'm actually breaking part one into several talks because there's a lot of meat there. It's the failure of today's pro-life movement. In part two, I'm going to be critiquing myself and saying, where could I be wrong? But there's also some interesting bits of information that would inform us in the future. In part three, I kind of sketch this alternative for the pro-life movement moving forward. And part four, I talk about kind of shorter term tactical recommendations. So I want to get in now to kind of a general critique. I call it the failure is real. And I am sure people, if they pay attention to the news, are going to say, wait, what failure? In early 2020, we are now in a position where Justices Gorsuch and Kavanaugh have now been seated. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg is, well, she's getting up there in years. States across the nation are passing increased restrictions on abortion, such as heartbeat bills and bans on particular abortion procedures. And if you look at right-wing websites, like, for example, First Things magazine, there's been a robust intellectual critique of traditional conservatism, what is now being called the dead consensus of the Reagan, Bush 1 and Bush 2 eras. So why do I say there is a failure? This slide sort of, well, in small letters, I apologize, explains it pretty well. This presents trends in public responses to surveys conducted from 1975 until 2019. So essentially almost the entire time since Roe v. Wade has passed. And what you can see here, the question they ask is, do you think abortion should be legal under any circumstances, legal only under certain circumstances, or pretty much always illegal? And what you can see here, this is a flat trend line. There's been no substantive change in public attitude or the distribution of beliefs over time. And it says that over the last 40 years, the pro-life movement itself has not done much to change any minds whatsoever. And recent trends are no different. If you look going back to 1999, this just zooms into years in which Gallup asked the question whether people consider themselves pro-choice or pro-life. You can see here that this is a flat trend line as well. And this is not just in the United States. In fact, in Ireland, things are going the opposite direction from being protective of the unborn in legal terms. In Ireland, in 2018, there was a referendum nationwide in which exactly one county in this generally Catholic nation voted more than 50% to keep abortion illegal. That's one out of, I don't know how many total counties there are. The turnout across Ireland was 64.13%, with about 2/3 of the votes saying yes, overturn the ban. Reasons for the failure. Part 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4 will all be separate presentations. First, voting for the court. Second, crisis pregnancy centers. Third, bunker Catholicism. And four, this is a more recent phenomenon, the rise of illiberalism. Just to sort of summarize the argument, geography and demography are critical determinants and platforms on which law and policy operate. Overturning Roe v. Wade will reduce national abortion rates in the United States, but only to a relatively small extent. And my estimate, although there is uncertainty here, is 5 to 9%. And that's actually not inconsistent with what other researchers have estimated. Restricting abortion in some states will promote, and I state here some states, because overturning Roe will not make abortion legal everywhere. It'll just send it to the states. DIY abortions using off-label drugs like Cytotec. Travel to states and nations where it is legal. Black market abortions that, under our constitutional system as it currently exists, are nearly impossible to enforce. And a further breakdown of civic culture. I will also mention that in the last few years, there has been an increasing illiberal political response to the failure of the pro-life movement to substantively win the culture war. But the problem is those illiberal political responses face the exact same problems of geography and demography. I'm talking about phenomena such as Catholic integralism, the neo-reactionary movement that sort of rejects the Enlightenment, the Dark Enlightenment movement, etc. That's the end of part one. I look forward to sharing ideas with you. And again, if you have any suggestions on how this can be a much more interesting talk or better ways to present graphics, I welcome your suggestions.